بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear students of Organizational Behavior course, today inshallah we will start with chapter number 10, Basics of Group Behavior. So now we will start to talk about a new phase of organizational behavior discipline, which is group dynamics. At the end of this chapter, the students will be able to distinguish between different types of groups, whether the formal or informal group, describe the punctuated equilibrium model of group development, show how role requirements change in different situations, demonstrate how norms exert influence on individuals' behavior, and show how status and size differences affect group performance, describe how issues of cohesiveness and diversity can integrated for group effectiveness, and finally contrast the strengths and weaknesses of a group decision making. So let's start to define what do we mean by group. Group, refers to two or more individuals who interacting and interdependent, who have come together to achieve particular objectives or particular goals. So when two or more persons cooperate with each other, help each other, and depending on each other, this refers to a group. Not all tasks need a group to be achieved, but in some cases we find that we cannot achieve this result or this objective without forming a group. فبالتالي في المنظمات قد تضطر يعني انها تشكل الجروبس، لانه هذا الاوبجكتيفز لتحقيقه وللوصول الى نتائج المرجوة يفترض ان يكون الشغل ضمن جروبس مش ك individuals. ف not all the tasks need a group، ولكن بعض الاوبجكتيفز يعني لتحقيقها بشكل مرضي يفترض انه احنا نشكل groups. So again, the group is two or more individuals who interacting and interdependent. It means they are cooperate with each other, depending on each other, help each other, and they have specific objectives to be achieved. Okay, so a group consists of two or more individuals interacting and interdependent who have come together to achieve particular objectives. The groups can be either formal or informal. So the types of the groups, or the classification of a groups, formal or informal group. In a simple way, the formal groups identifies usually by organization and by its structure, while the informal groups, those groups formed to meet the need of social contact. Okay, so the formal group is defined by the organizational structure, with designated work assignments and established tasks. In formal groups, the behavior team members should engage in are stipulated by and directed toward organizational goals. While the informal group is neither formally structured nor organizationally determined. Informal groups in the work environment meet the need for social contact. Okay, so once the group is identified by the organization and its structure, they have specific tasks to be achieved and they are directed toward the organizational goals. This is a formal group, while the group which is formed to meet the need for social contact, it is an informal groups. The organizations cannot ignore the role of informal groups. على الرغم من انها لم يتم تشكيلها يعني بناء على المنظمة، لكن برضو المنظمة مش لازم تتجاهل هذا النوع من الجروبس because this group represent one of the determinants of organizational performance. So informal group can facilitate the work of formal groups. فاحنا يعني كمنظمة مش لازم نتجاهل هذا النوع من الجروبس، بالعكس هي مهمة، هي يعني بتلبي احتياجات للأشخاص نفسهم اللي هي الاحتياجات الاجتماعية، فلازم تكون موجودة، لازم أنه أنا أدعمها لكن بطريقة تحقق مصلحة المنظمة، لأنه هذه الجروبس ممكن يعني تأثر إيجابا أو سلبا على الأورجانيزيشنال بيرفورمانس، فلازم أنه أخذها بعين الاعتبار. ممكن كمان سهل عمل الفورمال جروبس لأنها حققت احتياجات اللي هي خاصة بأفراد المجموعة كالاحتياجات الاجتماعية. Okay, so organizations have to study both of those groups, whether the formal group or informal group, which will affect the organizational performance. طالما بتأثر على organizational performance لازم أخذ الاثنين وأدرسهم يعني بشكل معمق. Now we wanted to talk about the social identity theory. Social identity theory, it is a perspective that considers when and why individuals consider themselves members of a group. So again, this theory, it is represent that when and why individuals consider themselves a member of the group. In workplace, our identification with our work group is often stronger than with our organizations, but both are important to positive outcomes and attitudes and behavior. If we have low identification with our organizations, we may experience decreased satisfaction and engage in fewer organizational citizenship behavior. Okay. Intergroups and outer groups. What is the difference among each of them? Intergroup favoritism, a perspective in which we see members of any group as better than other people, and people not in our group as all the same. Intergroup or sometimes we call it any group favoritism، بمعنى تفضيل أعضاء المجموعة تبعتي أو الأعضاء من داخل المجموعة عن أي أفراد من خارج المجموعة، وبعتبر كل الأفراد خارج المجموعة أنهم the same. okay. هذا اللي هو تفضيل وجود الأعضاء من داخل المجموعة أو ال in-group favoritism أو ال inter-group bias. على الجانب الآخر في عندي ال out-group, the inverse of an in-group. An out-group can mean anyone outside the group, but more usually it is an identified other group. أي شخص خارج المجموعة أو أي شخص ضمن مجموعة أخرى، ودايما احنا في الأوت جروبس بنشير إلى مجموعة أخرى، هذا ما نقصد فيه بالأوت جروب. So any group favoritism occurs when we see members of our group are as better than other people and people not in our groups as all the same. Recent research suggests that people with low openness or low agreeableness are more susceptible to any group favoritism, while the outer group, which is sometimes everyone else, but it is usually an identified group known by any group's members. Now we wanted to talk about the stages of group development. The first that we wanted to talk about it, the punctuated equilibrium model. This model focuses on how temporary groups are formed. Okay, so temporary groups with finite deadlines pass through a unique sequences of actions or inaction. Okay, again, the punctuated equilibrium model. This model is focusing on how temporary groups are formed. So, according to this model, we have 6 main stages. The first one, the first meeting sets the group's direction. So, in this step, we identify the group directions, we agree on a specific purpose and what to be achieved, what are our objectives. Okay, this is the first stage, or sorry, this is the first step of this model, or the punctuated equilibrium model, to again sets the group directions, the objectives, what to be achieved, what are our purposes. Okay, the second one, which is represent the first phase of a group activity, is one of inertia and thus makes slower progress. Okay, so this is represent the initial engagement with tasks. The groups implement some of the activities assigned to them, and the groups in this stage form some sort of guidelines. Okay, but this is the first phase of a group activity. Okay, so they are makes a slow progress. فيها يعني نوع من التعطيل، فيها نوع من الكسل. This is the first phase. The third one, a transition, takes place exactly when the group has used up half its allotted time. لما يصلوا إلى يعني منتصف الوقت حسب الديدلاين المخطط له، فبصير في عندي يعني نوع من التحول أو نقطة انتقال. Okay, so at this stage the group are capable more to deal with most of their problems, develop some mechanism to deal with different cases, so they introduce major changes in this stage. تمام، طالما حطوا mechanisms معينة حلوا مشاكلهم، فبالتالي هنا عندي تعتبر نقطة تحول، أو صار في عندي major changes in this stage. The fourth one, this transition initiates major changes. As we said before, that this transition make changes. The fifth one, a second phase of inertia follows the transition. Okay, second phase of inertia follows the transition. At this stage, more associated, or the groups more associated with more results, which is related to assignments. Okay, لأنه أصبحت هناك خبرة كبيرة لدى المجموعة إنها تواجه المشاكل تبعتها. Okay, ف again this stage or the second phase of inertia, which is follow the transition, it is associated with more results, which is related to assignments. The final one, which is the group's last meeting, is characterized by markedly accelerated activity. بكون في عندي نوع من النشاط المتسارع وبشكل ملحوظ، لأنه في عندي ديدلاين محدد لازم إحنا يعني نقوم بتسليم المهام المطلوبة بناء عليه. So at this final stage there is accelerated activity. Temporary groups have a deadline within a specific time limit, so they assure that they accomplish the assignments according to the designed or deformed standards. فبصير في عندي نوع من accelerated activity to يعني تقديم اللي هو assignments المطلوبة منهم في الوقت المناسب. In summary, the punctuated equilibrium model characterizes groups as exhibiting long periods of inertia interspreads with brief revolution or revolutionary changes triggered primarily by members' awareness of time and deadlines. هذا النوع من الجروبس temporary groups يعني مربوط بديدلاين محدد، فبالتالي يفترض انه يقوم بأداء المهام حسب الوقت المطلوب. طبعا هي punctuated equilibrium model، هي time limit from A to P، هي منتصف الوقت اللي هو حاطط لي بداية الوقت plus نهاية الوقت على 2. okay, this is the first phase اللي هي الانيرشيا phase. لسه بيحددوا فيها ايش الاهداف تبعتهم. تمام، this is the first meeting. بعد هيك بيكون في عندي منطقة تحول في منتصف الوقت، تمام، فبالتالي بيكونوا أصبحوا أكثر قدرة وخبرة للتعامل مع مشاكلهم، تمام. فبعد هيك طبعا بيقوموا في المرحلة الأخيرة اللي هي الكومبليشن فيز اللي هو some of accelerated activities، بيسارعوا في النشاط بشكل ملحوظ على أساس أنهم يقوموا بالتسليم المهام في الوقت المطلوب. Okay, طيب let's start to talk about a new topic related to groups. Factors or elements characterized different groups, and to know how those property will affect group performance. في عندي مجموعة من ال characteristics or ال elements or the factors for different groups اللي احنا هنسميها ب property that will affect group performance. هنحكي عن ال main properties such as role, norms, status, size, and cohesiveness. So let's start to talk about the first one, or the group property number one, اللي هي rules. Some defining group properties are roles, norms, status, size, cohesiveness, and diversity. فبحنا راح نحكي عنها بنوع من التفصيل خلال هذا الفصل. The first one is, or the first property is roles. What do you mean by roles? The roles, it is a set of expected behaviors which is expected by individuals within social unit or within groups. Okay, so once we talk about roles, some issues should be covered or taken into consideration, such as the group identity, the group perception, and role of expectation. So again, how we can define role: it is a set of expected behavior patterns attributed to someone occupying a given position in a social unit. والsocial unit هنا مقصود فيها بالجروب. Expected behavior which is expected by individuals within social unit or a group. Different groups impose different role requirements on individuals. We all play a number of roles and our behavior varies with each. But how do we know each role's requirements? We draw upon our role perceptions to frame our ideas or appropriate behaviors and learn the expectations of our groups. We also seek to understand the parameters of our roles to minimize role conflict. فبالتالي أن مجموعة من issues we have to be covered once we talk about roles اللي هي roles perception, role expectation, and role conflict. So let's start to talk about role perception. What do you mean by role perception? Sometimes the role expected is something different from what I perceived the role. Okay, so it is relates to how individuals understanding the role required to be performed. هذا اللي هي role perception. Again, it is relates how individuals understanding the role required to be performed. So role perception again, an individual's view of how he or she is supposed to act in a given situation. أما بالنسبة للrole expectation, okay, here we have to talk about how others are expecting individuals within a group to behave. How others believe a person should act in a given situation. فالrole perception اللي هي our own perception. لكن role expectation, it is talking about other beliefs or how the others are expecting individuals within a group to behave. Okay. In the workplace, we look at role expectations through the perspective of psychological contact. طبعا الرول اوف اكسبكتيشن مربوطه الى حد ما باللي هو يعني بشيء نفسي، تمام، او يعني بدرسها من ناحيه منظور نفسي. What do you mean by psychological contracts? It is unwritten agreement that exists between employees and employers. تمام، هو عقد لكنه غير مكتوب وعود واتفاقات ما بين الموظف والموظف. This agreement sets out a mutual expectation. Management is expected to treat employees justly, provide acceptable working condition, clearly communicate what is a fair day's work, and give feedback on how well an employee is doing. هذه يعني المانجمنت يفترض انه هي تقدمها حسب psychological contract among the employers and employees. يفترض انها توفر لهم الجو المناسب للعمل، يفترض انه يكون في نوع من العدالة، يكون في نوع من كمان التقييم العادل ما بين الموظفين. and the employees are expected to demonstrate a good attitude, follow directions and show loyalty to the organization. في المقابل يفترض الموظفين كمان حسب هذا الكونتراكت، حتى لو انه مش مكتوب، يفترض انه يكون في عندي يعني التزام بالقوانين، بالقواعد، تحقيق الاهداف، يكون في نوع من الولاء لهذا. من المتوقع اذا لم يتم يعني الالتزام بهذا الاتفاق حتى ولو كان او العقد هذا الغير مكتوب، we can expect negative effects of employees' performance and satisfaction. فيفترض انه حسب psychological contract المنظمة بتقدم شيء للموظف، والموظف كمان في المقابل بيقدم شيء للمنظمة. طيب أما بالنسبة للرول conflict, if there is any conflict among role expectation and role perception, this will lead to affect organizational performance negatively. So if there is any sort of inconsistency, there is a role conflict here. So what do we mean by role conflict? It is a situation in which an individual is confronted by a divergent role expectation. Okay, while the role conflict, a situation in which the expectation of an individual's different separate groups are in opposition. Now we wanted to talk about another factors related to group اللي هي group property number 2. هنحكي على norms. Okay, so what do we mean by norms? Norms, it is the standards which is controlling the behaviors of the group members. So among organizational groups there is nothing formal, خاصة إذا كنا بنحكي على informal groups. Okay, but those norms will control the behavior of individuals or the group member. في العادي يفترض انه في المنظمه في حاجه بنسميها احنا مش norms، بنسميها البايلوز regulations اللي هي بتعمل controlling for the employees behavior. لكن اذا احنا بنحكي على الجروبس فالشيء هذا حنسميه بالnorms, which is referred to the acceptable standards of behavior within a group that are shared by groups members اللي حتعمل controlling على اللي هو individuals or group members behavior. Those norms have an effect on different issues. The first one, norms and emotion. العلاقة ما بين اللي هي norms والemotions. A recent study found that in a task group, individuals' emotions influenced the group's emotion and vice versa. Researchers also found that norms dedicated the experience of emotion for the individuals and for the groups. In other words, the people grew to interpret their shared emotion in the same way. طالما أنهم في نفس المجموعة, so they shared the same emotion. The second one is norms and conformity. In conformity, individuals usually show high interest and commitment to norms handled by groups, or it is refers to up to what extent individuals try to gain an acceptance by group members, so they show commitment to norms. So What do you mean by conformity? Again, it is the adjustments of one's behavior to align with norms of the groups. طيب في هنا دراسة لعالم سولمون. مختصر هذه الدراسة بيحكي انه عشان يوضح ال conformity among the group members كون مجموعة من الفرق، كل فرقة من 7 إلى 8 أشخاص، وأعطاهم 2 cards. كل كارد كان فيه مجموعة من الخطوط. الكارد الأول كان فيه 3 خطوط، والفرق ما بينهم في اللينث متباين بشكل كبير وواضح، والكارد الثاني كان فيه خط واحد. الكارد الثاني اللي فيه خط واحد طبعا هذا الكارد كان إلى حد ما في طوله يشابه بعض يعني واحد من الخطوط الموجودة في الكارد الأول. فعندما قام بالتوزيع للمجموعات طبعا أجابوا بشكل صحيح انه اللي هو الخط الموجود في الكارد الاول اكس يوازي تماما اللي هو الموجود في الكارد الثاني اللي هو الخط بي. طيب بعد هيك يعني اعاد التجربه مره اخرى في بعض الجروبس، حكت انه اكس هذا طول هذا الخط يعادل اللي هو سي او اللاين سي في الكارد الثاني. طبعا رغم انه في هذه المجموعه بعض الأشخاص كانوا متيقنين تماما أنه X لا يوازي C الموجود في الكارد الثاني، إلا أنه عشان في نوع من التناغم ومع هذه المجموعة فما بيخرجوا عنها، فبالتالي اتفقوا على أنه فعلا اللي هي اللاين الأول X يعادل اللاين C، رغم أنه يعني خطأ ومتيقنين من وجود هذا الخطأ. But does that mean we are mere robots? Certainly not. Do individuals conform to the pressure of all the groups to which they belong? Again, obviously not. People conforms most with their reference groups. احنا يعني مش رح نتبع الجروبس اللي احنا مجموعة منها كروبوتس، وإنما عادة بيحكي للأشخاص تتبع المجموعات اللي هي بنسميها بالجماعات المرجعية. And what do we mean by reference group? It is a group which norms matching individuals' beliefs, attitudes, so the individuals prefer to be a member of it. Reference group, it is important group in which a person is aware of other members, defines himself or herself as a member, or would like to be a member and feels the group's members are significant to him or her. Okay. فيعني هذا اختيار الشخص نفسه بيكون تابع أو عضو من أعضاء هذه المجموعة. Okay. So now we want to go to another topic, relation between positive norms and group outcomes. النورمز ممكن يأثر يعني طريقة إيجابية أو سلبية على اللي هي الأوتكمز. فنشوف البوزيتيف.